Welcome back, everyone. As we told you at the beginning of the show, a man described by police as a local drug lord is headed to prison for decades.
Just this week, Darren Southall reached a plea deal.
Darren Southall will be off the streets after entering a plea deal. He faces anywhere from 30 to 35 years behind bars for his crime.
The Macon man could face up to 60 years in prison for his part in a Central Georgia drug ring. A Houston County jury found 52-year-old Dexter Lee Williams guilty on 3 counts of violating Georgia's RICO law.
The center of one of Virginia's largest fentanyl seizures will spend the next 2 decades in prison. According to the Department of Justice, Monta Jordan, who is described as a drug kingpin, was arrested back in 2017 following a massive undercover operation.
Drug kingpins are the masterminds behind vast and intricate drug trafficking organizations, controlling the production, distribution, and sale of illegal narcotics on a large scale. These individuals wield immense authority, orchestrating every aspect of their operations, including coordination with cartels, laundering illicit proceeds, and managing complex supply chains that span multiple states and countries. Despite their significant influence, drug kingpins often operate in the shadows, using intermediaries to insulate themselves from direct involvement and complicate law enforcement efforts to dismantle their networks. The cases of individuals such as Dexter Lee Williams, Monta Jordan, Alfredo Jacobo, and others illustrate the devastating impact these leaders have on communities and the intensive investigations required to bring them to justice.
2 infamous cartel kingpins facing very different realities right now. One, a Colombian drug lord and key operator of the Medellin Cartel, now released from a U.S. prison after a quarter-century behind bars. And the other, the subject of a manhunt by the federal government, now with a $15 million reward for his capture.
News today. Startling news for some. The notorious one-time kingpin of D.C., Rayful Edmond, has been released from a federal prison. Edmond served more than 3 decades of a life sentence, his crimes helping to inspire our City Under Siege coverage in the 1980s. But Edmond has also worked as a government informant, leading in part to his early release.
Philadelphia, 1986. In the heat of the summer, one of the hottest on record, one gangster fell into the game. Her name was Thelma Wright.
A drug kingpin is a high-ranking leader or mastermind of a drug trafficking organization who oversees and controls large-scale production, distribution, and sale of illegal narcotics. They hold significant authority within the organization, making critical decisions and directing others in the supply chain. Kingpins often operate across multiple regions or territories, exerting wide influence over the drug trade. They typically manage sophisticated operations that involve couriers, distributors, stash houses, and money laundering schemes, all designed to evade law enforcement. A defining characteristic of a kingpin is their ability to establish direct relationships with suppliers, such as cartels or manufacturers, and other criminal enterprises. Despite their extensive control, kingpins often insulate themselves from lower-level activities by using intermediaries, making it harder for law enforcement to detect their involvement. In legal terms, many countries, including the United States, target drug kingpins under specific laws like the Continuing Criminal Enterprise (CC) statute, which identifies them as individuals who organize, supervise, or manage a criminal enterprise involving significant quantities of narcotics.
Darren Southall will be off the streets after entering a plea deal. He faces anywhere from 30 to 35 years behind bars for his crimes. Southall has a long criminal history dating back to the 1990s. Federal prosecutors labeled him a ringleader in a multi-state, multi-million-dollar drug organization since at least 2016. This plea, Southall admits he's accountable for 4,000 kilograms of cocaine, 24 kilograms of heroin, and he admits he took in about $24 million during the time of his operation. According to court documents, Southall did some of his business in Mobile, Mississippi, and Texas.
Pleading guilty to federal charges of escaping from the Clark County jail, but he claims he had help from the inside. Darren D.D. Southall walked away from that jail in May, but was quickly recaptured. Southall, in his plea agreement, says he'd agreed to pay someone in the jail to spring him. Fox 10 News is working to confirm Southall's claim, but we've yet to get a comment back. Southall has been in jail awaiting a drug conspiracy trial. Prosecutors claim he runs a huge Gulf Coast drug ring. But Mobile police say that Southall is also a person of interest in the murder of grandparents of Mobile rapper Honeycomb Brazy, whose real name is Deshaun Jones.
2 more members of Darren Southall's drug trafficking organization sentenced in federal court. Sham artists Widget and Randall Hinton joining 3 other defendants behind bars now. The judge handing down an 11-year sentence for Hinton and just about a year for Widget, both entering guilty pleas for drug conspiracy with plans to distribute part of a criminal enterprise. According to new documents, Southall was the leader of that organization.
Darren Jamar D.D. Southall, 43, pleaded guilty to conspiracy to distribute, possession with intent to distribute, and conspiracy to commit money laundering. As part of a plea deal, Southall faces a 35-year prison sentence, which could be reduced to 30 years if he cooperates with ongoing investigations. Southall is also a person of interest in the arson demise of a Happy Hill couple, although he has not been charged in that case. Southall admitted to leading a massive drug operation that distributed various drugs across the Gulf Coast, generating $24 million in drug proceeds. Federal agents began tracking him in 2016, using wiretaps and surveillance to uncover his activities. These efforts led to the seizure of 12 kilograms, $500,000 in cash, and a firearm. But investigators estimate his network moved as much as 4,000 kilograms to cover its operation. As part of the plea, Southall agreed to forfeit $2.4 million in cash, 18 vehicles, and jewelry seized during the investigation. Court records revealed that Southall sold 100 kilograms monthly, generating $3 million for his suppliers in Texas. He used the proceeds to pay for a Biloxi condo and storage units in Alabama and Mississippi, where drugs and cash were hidden. Prosecutors presented evidence showing Southall's extensive laundering operations, including large cash deposits made by co-conspirators to conceal the source of the money. Bank accounts and financial records detailed unexplained cash transactions exceeding $150,000. Southall also used couriers and co-defendants to manage drug proceeds, ensuring his involvement was difficult to trace. Southall has a criminal history, including a prior conviction in 2002 for drug conspiracy. Earlier this year, he also pleaded guilty to an escape charge after briefly fleeing a Clark County jail while awaiting trial. Despite his incarceration, Southall allegedly coordinated drug activities from jail using smuggled cell phones. Authorities have also linked Southall to ongoing violence involving rival factions. He is a suspect in the February arson demise of Tony and Layla Lewis, the grandparents of rapper Honeycomb Brazy. The couple's home was set on fire after being shot at, but Southall has not been charged. The violence stems from long-standing bad blood between Southall and factions tied to Honeycomb Brazy, who fatally shot Southall's nephew in 2016. Southall's guilty plea concludes a federal indictment involving 16 defendants, with 15 now pleading guilty and 1 still at large. The case highlights the extensive reach of Southall's drug empire, which prosecutors described as one of the Gulf Coast's most significant trafficking operations. He is scheduled for sentencing, which will formalize his lengthy prison term and bring an end to his reign as a drug
An Jamaican man could face up to 60 years in prison for his part in a Central Georgia drug ring. A Houston County jury found 52-year-old Dexter Lee Williams guilty on 3 counts of violating Georgia's RICO law. Prosecutors say Williams was linked to the Gulf Cartel in Mexico.
I would say you are feeding the addiction that they're battling with, and you are profiting from their addiction. But you're convicted not because law enforcement is racist. You're convicted not because the court is underhanded or corrupted or is corrupt or anything like that. You're not convicted because the jury had some kind of inappropriate communication with witnesses or any of these other allegations that have been made during the course of this case, or any of these wild, unsupported allegations that have been made throughout this whole trial, or this whole case.
We talking about from me, Judge? You're holding what I said?
No, I'm talking to Mr. Williams. I've heard everything. And this
Right,
is
but you're holding, no, what other accusations? He didn't testify, so you're holding what I said.
I've heard everybody. I've heard it all.
Who else said
I've heard it all. I've heard it all. It's my time to speak.
Dexter Lee Williams, 53, identified as the leader of a major drug trafficking ring responsible for distributing millions of dollars worth of drugs in Middle Georgia, was found guilty on Monday after a week-long trial in Houston Superior Court. His conviction comes after a months-long investigation led by Houston County narcotics agents, culminating in the March 2020 seizure of 87 pounds worth nearly $4 million at a Love's travel stop in South Bibb County. Williams, a Macon resident who owned a used car lot and rental properties, was arrested at his home in the Providence subdivision off Base Road. Authorities linked him to a sophisticated drug network using wiretaps, surveillance, and couriers to distribute drugs across the region. The investigation uncovered over 25,000 phone calls and text messages, leading to the arrests of more than a dozen individuals involved in the operation. A seasoned criminal, Williams has a long history of drug-related offenses. In 2007, he pleaded guilty to merry distribution as part of a federal drug ring and was sentenced to 37 months in prison. He was also identified in 1990 as the leader of a drug operation in Hancock County, further cementing his status as a prominent figure in regional drug trafficking. During the trial, Williams' attorney, Wanda S. Jackson, argued that the charges were improperly brought in Houston County, claiming Williams' activities occurred in Bibb County. Prosecutor Greg Winters counted that Williams' drug network extended beyond Bibb County, supplying narcotics to dealers in Butts County, Perry, Warner Robins, and Atlanta. Evidence presented in court revealed that Williams was planning to expand his drug operation to Washington, D.C. and New York City, aiming to distribute 20 to 30 kilograms monthly through a Gulf Cartel pipeline. Investigators detailed Williams' use of couriers who transported drugs in luggage flown into Atlanta's airport and vehicles with hidden compartments. The pivotal March 2020 seizure of 87 pounds at Love's travel stop highlighted the operation's scale, with the shipment valued at over $3.5 million. Jurors deliberated for more than 5 hours before convicting Williams on 3 counts of violating Georgia's Racketeer-Influenced and Corrupt Organizations (RICO) Act. Despite the conviction, Williams displayed no emotion and gave a thumbs up to his family as he exited the courtroom. Prosecutors described Williams as a calculated leader who viewed drug trafficking as a business, disregarding the lives devastated by his actions. Kendall emphasized the devastating impact of Williams' operation, stating, "This was never just a business."
The center of one of Virginia's largest seizures will spend the next 2 decades in prison. According to the Department of Justice, Monta Jordan, who is described as a drug kingpin, was arrested back in 2017 following a massive undercover operation. Prosecutors say he distributed large quantities of...
Monta Jordan, 45, also known as Ghost and has been sentenced to 20 years in federal prison for leading a drug trafficking operation that distributed throughout the Roanoke Valley. His conviction followed a lengthy investigation and a February 2020 jury trial. Jordan was found guilty on multiple counts, including drug conspiracy, possession with intent to distribute, and firearms charges related to his drug activities. Jordan oversaw a network responsible for trafficking over 54 kilograms of narcotics into the region since 2016. He used couriers and mail services to transport drugs from states such as New York, North Carolina, Tennessee, and Ohio, compensating couriers in various ways. Investigators revealed that Jordan mailed large cash payments to suppliers, including one intercepted package containing nearly $50,000 hidden inside a hollowed-out basketball. In August 2017, law enforcement seized 4.5 pounds of fentanyl from a hidden compartment in Jordan's vehicle, which he referred to as the Batmobile. This marked the largest fentanyl seizure in Virginia at the time, highlighting the drug's role in a rising wave of overdoses. Days later, Jordan was arrested following a sting operation in which agents replaced a package of intended for him with fake drugs. During a subsequent police chase, Jordan attempted to discard the sham narcotics before being apprehended. Despite his arrest, Jordan continued coordinating drug deliveries from jail using contraband cell phones. His associate, Amini Mohammed Rep, was later convicted for attempting to smuggle one of these phones to him in a fake legal binder. Law enforcement officials praised the collaborative effort that dismantled Jordan's operation, and emphasized the significant impact of removing a major source of dangerous narcotics from the community. Jordan remains incarcerated, serving his 20-year sentence.
California drug kingpin arrested in connection with dealing here in Oklahoma. A 13-count federal indictment was unsealed, charging Luis Alfredo Jacobo with leading the criminal enterprise. The alleged mastermind is connected to organized meth operations in Oklahoma and Missouri. This drug ring, estimated to have brought 2,000 pounds of meth in northern Oklahoma and southwestern Missouri.
Luis Alfredo Jacobo, 32, of Bakersfield, California, has been sentenced to 4 concurrent life terms in federal prison for leading a major drug trafficking network that operated in Oklahoma and Missouri. Jacobo, who was charged with operating a continuing criminal enterprise and 3 conspiracies, used his connections to Mexican suppliers to distribute large quantities of drugs over a 5-year period. His organization was responsible for shipping in loads as large as 200 pounds from California to northeast Oklahoma and southwest Missouri, with millions of dollars in proceeds sent back to California. Jacobo orchestrated every detail of the operation, from setting drug prices and delivery methods to approving payment instructions. He managed a network of more than a dozen associates who acted as regional managers, distributors, and couriers. Evidence presented in court revealed that Jacobo directed shipments of drugs through the United States, postal service, or by car, while cash payments of up to $100,000 were transported back to him by couriers or through money remitters. The investigation uncovered significant evidence of Jacobo's role as a kingpin. In October 2020, law enforcement seized 231 pounds and $465,000 in cash from a storage unit in Grove, Oklahoma. Days later, co-defendant Tony Garcia was arrested in Oklahoma City with 30 pounds and a loaded handgun, following texted instructions from Jacobo about drug deliveries. Further searches revealed additional storage locations used to house drugs and proceeds from the operation. Jacobo's conviction stemmed from Operation Pull and Chains, an organized crime drug enforcement task force investigation targeting high-level drug traffickers and transnational criminal organizations. Federal, state, tribal, and local agencies worked together to dismantle Jacobo's extensive network, which operated in 3 phases between 2016 and 2021. Jacobo remains in federal custody, awaiting transfer to a Bureau of Prisons facility. His life sentences reflect the Justice Department's commitment to holding drug traffickers accountable and protecting communities from the dangers of and organized crime.
The Athens-Clarke County Police Department was joined by U.S. Attorney Peter Leary of the Middle District of Georgia to announce 13 more arrests for Operation Tourniquet.
A 7-month-long multi-agency investigation into high-level members of the 1831 Piru criminal street gang.
This is video of the operation Thursday shot by the department. It shows law enforcement gathering at the police department's West End precinct before arresting the latest suspects.
60 firearms, including 14 assault rifles and 4 shotguns, were seized.
Launched in May, the initiative involves dozens of law enforcement agencies across the metro area. Including those arrested yesterday, at least 37 people are facing charges.
The investigation is not done. We do expect additional defendants, additional charges, additional work in this case.
In a major drug trafficking investigation in Houston and also several other states across the country.
Albert Ross, 53, of Stone Mountain, was sentenced to 2 life terms in federal prison for leading a violent drug trafficking organization that distributed over 2,000 kilograms across middle Georgia, including Athens. Ross's was supplied directly by the Cartel de Jalisco Nueva Generation in Mexico, making him a key figure in a massive international narcotics operation. According to court documents, Ross admitted to being the leader of the DTO, directing the transportation from Texas to Metro Atlanta for distribution. Payments for the drugs, totaling millions of dollars, were funneled to his Mexican suppliers via couriers in Atlanta. In August 2019, Ross and his associates flew to Mexico City to negotiate an additional monthly supply of 200 kilograms with cartel leaders. In a single 3-week period in 2020, Ross received 112 kilograms and $2.5 million in payments to his suppliers. Ross's organization relied on stash houses and associates to distribute the drugs. One stash house on Pittman Road in College Park was operated by co-defendants Lonnie Bennett and Brandon Payne. while Tamikel Darden transported from the stash house to Athens and Middle Georgia for further distribution. Ross also used the home of an elderly family member to store, despite the individual previously being shot while retrieving drugs for him. Federal agents began tracking Ross in 2018, uncovering his use of private planes to transport drug money. In one instance, agents seized over $2 million in cash from luggage aboard a flight from Atlanta to California. Ross was arrested in September 2021 at his Stone Mountain home, where agents found over $300,000 in cash, vacuum-sealed and hidden in his closet. Additional raids uncovered more than $600,000 worth of drugs at a bar he owned. In total, the investigation resulted in the seizure of $3.1 million in cash, 73 firearms, 165 kilograms, 1.3 kilograms of fentanyl, and significant quantities of other drugs. Ross, who has a prior felony drug conviction and multiple arrests for drug trafficking, pleaded guilty in January to conspiracy to distribute. He received the maximum sentence of 2 life terms in prison, along with a $1 million fine and 5 years of supervised release. Federal authorities called the sentence a major victory in the fight against drug trafficking in the region. Ruben Ortiz, 36, has been identified as the kingpin of a large drug operation that spanned multiple years and involved dozens of suspects. Ortiz and his associates are accused of trafficking significant quantities of drugs. Over 2 years, members of the operation sold drugs to undercover agents at least 29 times, prosecutors revealed in Brown County Court. Assistant District Attorney Amy Pautsky described Ortiz as the leader who insulated himself by involving family members and close friends in the operation. Police arrested Ortiz and 28 others this week following the execution of 18 search warrants. Authorities seized thousands of dollars, 14 guns, and large quantities of drugs during the operation. Ortiz faces charges for the delivery of drugs. Among the 28 suspects were Ortiz's mother, sister, and sons, one of whom was labeled a high-level co-conspirator. Jordan is accused of using a weapon to collect drug debts, including $20,000, which allegedly resulted in a drive-by shooting. Another upper-level co-conspirator, Gabriel Bonilla, 38, also had his bond set at $500,000. Bonilla is accused of conspiring to deliver more than 50 grams and has a history of criminal activity, including a 2008 escape from custody. Terry A. Johnson, 26, was identified as another significant figure in the operation. 4 guns recovered from his residence. Prosecutors also named Alejandro Lopez, 37, as one of Ortiz's suppliers. Police seized a kilogram firearms and an AR-15 from his home. Additionally, Jonathan Patton, the owner of Cover 2 Sports Bar and Lounge in Green Bay, is suspected of selling Marion and is among those arrested. After a lengthy investigation, police have arrested 49-year-old Quan Ware, also known as Tank, and his accomplice, 48-year-old Jamie Durkich, who are accused of running a major drug ring supplying narcotics to hotels and motels in Allen County for years. Ware, described as the kingpin pipeline of the operation, lives in South Bend but is accused of distributing significant quantities to Fort Wayne. Durkich, identified as the operation's main saleswoman, managed a Fort Wayne apartment that served as the base for their activities. According to court documents, Ware and Durkich frequently traveled between South Bend and Fort Wayne in Durkich's car, transporting pounds and large amounts of fentanyl each week. Both allegedly stayed in Airbems to evade law enforcement, as Ware was already wanted on separate drug dealing charges. Over the years, the operation employed several women as drug couriers, including 48-year-old Erin Holbrook, who was described as a major conspirer responsible for distributing pounds of narcotics provided by Durkich. Authorities confirmed their roles through 4 undercover drug buys conducted by a criminal informant between May and October 2023. On November 18, Fort Wayne police executed a search warrant at the Fort Wayne apartment.due to the high-risk location. Officers delayed entry, allowing Holbrook time to flush approximately 2 pounds down the toilet. Police recovered 2 large freezer bags of crystal from the toilet and arrested Holbrook, though 2 men found in the apartment were not charged as part of the ring. Ware, Durkich, and Holbrook now face serious charges as authorities dismantle what they describe as a major narcotics distribution network in the region. Daniel Robert, 43, of Meridian, was convicted this week by a federal jury on multiple charges of trafficking after evading capture for over a decade. Attorney's office in Jackson described Robert as a major drug dealer, highlighting his significant role in orchestrating drug sales and transport. Robert was found guilty of 2 counts of conspiracy to possess with intent to distribute, 1 count of possession with intent to distribute, and 1 count of attempted possession with intent to distribute. His charges stem from his leadership of a drug trafficking organization that operated from 2007 to 2009. During this time, Robert organized the transport of multiple kilograms from Houston, Texas to Lauderdale County, Mississippi, using vehicles equipped with hidden compartments. Investigators revealed he directed sales valued at tens of thousands of dollars and relied on numerous co-conspirators for distribution. In one undercover operation, Robert accepted $16,000 in exchange for more than a kilogram. On June 26, 2009, he and an accomplice were stopped in Texas while driving a truck with a hidden compartment containing nearly 8 kilograms. After being released from custody, Robert attempted to reclaim the truck, believing the drugs inside had gone unnoticed. Unbeknownst to him, FBI agents had taken possession of the truck, posing as insurance adjusters. When Robert and his girlfriend purchased the vehicle, agents documented the exchange and later arrested most members of his criminal network. However, Robert managed to flee and remained a fugitive for over 10 years. Robert was finally captured by the FBI and now faces additional charges, including witness tampering in Mississippi and Illinois. He is scheduled for sentencing on May 1, 2020 before Judge Jordan. He faces a maximum penalty of life imprisonment and a $10 million fine. A pediatrician from Sinaloa, Mexico, was coerced into participating in a massive drug conspiracy that led to the 3rd largest fentanyl seizure in U.S. history. Dr. Adolfo Verdugo Lopez, who worked near El Chapo's cartel headquarters, claimed armed cartel members threatened to kill him and his family unless he complied with their demands. Initially resistant, Lopez was forced to oversee the logistics of a fentanyl shipment from California to suburban Detroit. In July 2017, he was arrested at a Novi, Michigan condo filled with over 10 kilograms of fentanyl, that white girl, and $500,000 in cash. Although Lopez pleaded guilty and was sentenced to 40 months in prison, the court delayed his plea for over a year due to concerns about the threats he faced. The investigation began after D agents intercepted H concealed in a Sony PlayStation box during a drug deal at a Walmart in Novi. Using the gaming system's serial number, agents traced it to a condo 3 miles away, leading to a raid. Inside, they arrested Lopez, Manuel Barayas, a horse groomer, and Andre Lee Scott, a barber. However, James Bug McGlory, a trucking worker from Los Angeles and a key figure in the operation, narrowly escaped capture. Investigators later tracked him to Maryland, where they seized drugs and $140,000 from a Baltimore stash house. The investigation revealed a sprawling drug network orchestrated by Maurice Locke McCoy, a California-based kingpin. McCoy laundered proceeds through Money Gang Meal Click, a rap label that served as a front. The label had minimal commercial success but flaunted wealth on social media through posts of cash, jewelry, and luxury goods. McCoy's girlfriend played a key role, incorporating a trucking company likely to mask the ring's illicit income. The cartel used female couriers and accomplices across the U.S., with hubs in Alabama, Maryland, Michigan, and California. By 2019, 14 members of the drug ring had been arrested. McCoy himself was apprehended after a chase in California. He now faces a trial with a potential 20-year sentence, while White remains free on bond, publicly advocating for his release. This case demonstrates the extensive reach of cartel operations, their reliance on coercion, and the sophisticated methods they use to distribute drugs and launder profits. The conviction and sentencing of notorious drug kingpins like Dexter Lee Williams, Monta Jordan, Luis Alfredo Jacobo, Albert Ross, and others represent significant victories in the fight against organized narcotics trafficking. These cases highlight the devastating social and economic costs of their operations, which fuel addiction, violence, and systemic corruption. However, they also demonstrate the tireless dedication of federal, state, and local law enforcement agencies working collaboratively to dismantle these enterprises and hold their leaders accountable. As these kingpins face lengthy prison sentences, their downfall underscores the importance of continued vigilance and cooperation in combating the ever-evolving threat of drug trafficking organizations.